happy to see you, my darling. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. What's in your cup this morning?
I have chai tea.
Can I say, okay, usually I'm not a Starbucks girl. Shocker, but only because bitter beans. But
Mm.
yesterday I tried gingerbread chai latte. I had it hot and I was a fan. I was a fan. So I love the fact that you have chai. Yay! Oh my gosh, how are you?
I'm great. I'm on my first day of Thanksgiving break since I'm a teacher. So I know, I'm living it up. I slept in, well, for a teacher, I slept in till 7. So that was great.
That is huge. That is huge, especially for my teachers, for sure. We're recording this episode, as she said, the week of Thanksgiving. So I have pumpkin spice creamer in my coffee, but I after Thanksgiving, I usually put the cap on pumpkin spice.
Yeah,
I don't know about
same.
you. Like, are you like pumpkined out by then?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am so excited about this episode because with this series titled Why Not? And you and I are both so out of the box people,
Yeah. Oh,
we kind
yeah.
of platform. It's funny because even within that, there are some structural things that provide safety. And one of those is we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But at the same time, there's freedom to maneuver. And I think growing confidence in that freedom to maneuver. And when I think of those two, what seem like opposites working in tandem, I think of you and how you've navigated this recently in your life, in your career, and in how you help other people do this as well. So I already bragged on you a little bit, but I tell us more about your artistic journey, because you are a woman of many, many talents. So I want you just to tell our listeners, how did Jordan van Zyl, become Jordan van Zyl?
I know. It is. Yeah. So it started. I've been passionate about a lot of things my whole life. I've never just been like, oh, I've been put on this earth to do blank. It's never been that way for me. And so I remember in high school, I took a career test because I was like, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. And the number one option was to be a rabbi, which I am not Jewish. So that was yeah. So I was like, okay, well, what's number two? And also, how do they do they ask your religion in this test? I don't know. Obviously not. So I was like, I'm not gonna be a rabbi. What's number two? And number two was music therapist. And so I was like, sure, let's just try it. And that is literally how I started my first career. Was
Wow.
yeah, I knew nothing about it. I was just like, this sounds interesting and like it's helpful to the world. So let's do it. During this time, obviously a theater kid. So grew up in theater, choir kid, like just loved performing, loved being expressive, obviously loved music. So I was doing that really throughout all of high school. And then once I got into college, did a little bit of professional theater on the side. But yeah, just never looked back, started my career, became a music therapist. During that time, I launched a YouTube channel for kids called Joe Jumper. It's growing every day, which is bizarre because I haven't posted anything in like 2 years, but every day somebody new is subscribing, which is amazing. But yeah, I did that for a while and kept performing a little bit on the side. That kind of took a hiatus, which we can talk about. Our artists being in careers that are artistic. And so sometimes that burns you out from our artistry. But yeah, so did the YouTube channel for a while and ended up, just lots of things. Was a worship leader at a church, then was a kids ministry leader on staff at a church, and just had my hands in a lot of different things. And eventually I just felt like whatever I'm doing is not working for me. It's time for something different. And around that time, I got a random text from someone who worked at a school being like, hey, there's a music teacher position open. I really think you're a perfect fit. And I was just like, okay, God, I guess we're going to do this. And so I went and interviewed, got offered the position really quickly. And so I kind of took that as an open door and ran through it. And so that's what I'm doing now. But during the side hustle time, we'll talk about this, I bet, in a second. But I also got into budgeting and really into financial freedom through budgeting and helping people yeah, learn how to do it, particularly creatives and artists who might have written themselves out of that before. So kind of launched a little coaching business on the side. I mean, truly, the career journey is absolutely wild. So if anyone's listening to this and you're like, wow, that also sounds like me, of where I can't land anywhere, let me tell you, it's fine. Okay. You're made that way on purpose and it's fine.
I, I love that. See, this proves the whole thing we were talking about at the beginning, right? Where that it see, okay, let me give my little personal testimony as somebody who's followed you too on this journey on social media and seeing you transform in front of the camera of sorts. So Joe Jumper, you guys, I'm going to put all these links in the show notes because unfortunately, when Jordan launched this, my two daughters had already outaged this, but had they been the core audience, I know that we would have been like super fans, subscribing. Genevieve, who from Disney? I mean, we would have been following Joe Jumper. You really are gifted with that. And I love that you say, I haven't posted in 2 years and it's still growing, is another form I'm sure that you're going to talk about here in a minute with embracing the lanes that you are in currently and where you're thriving in currently, and just watching how they can still have ripple effects many, many years later, and especially for creatives and artists alike. And I remember having you on an Instagram live talking about music therapy.
That's right.
And working specifically with neurodivergent singers, which is amazing. And I've seen your transformative work in that and your giftedness in that. And then watching you create Budget Bestie. And I'm addicted. I am addicted to each and everything that you post. So all that information is in the show notes. But really, here's what I really want to get at with the whole well, why not component. Not only in flexibility changes with your career, but when you talk to an artist and a creative about being financially free, for some of us, it makes us throw up in our mouth a little bit because we're just like, oh my gosh, we're thinking about the next paycheck. Okay, this contract is up. What am I doing in the new year? I don't have anything lined up for the new year. And this can be such a huge source of anxiety for so many people, especially us performing artists. So kind of talk as a free spirit as yourself, as someone who is open to flexibility. Why was this so attractive to you? Because when people think budgeting and accounting, they think they have a vision or a stereotype in their head, don't they? So what attracted you most to that?
I think at its core, budgeting or, financial literacy, if we can call it that, is a form of self-care. And I believe that when I was kind of going through this, I got to a point where I was so frustrated with just not knowing how to do this, what seemed like a very easy, basic adulting thing. And it felt so out of my league. I felt so dumb, like truly, because I've never been like, I'm great at math. I always hated math, and I'm like, I'm not good with numbers. Therefore, I'm not good with money. Therefore, I will remove myself from that equation. And it's better to just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist than actually have to face some of these, frankly, lies that I've been telling myself about my own intelligence, And so when I was forced to start learning about it when I opened my own business with music therapy. And, you can't really hide it, like you can hire all the people, but when you're just starting out, you don't have any money to hire anybody. So you're like, well, I would love not to go to jail for tax fraud. So let me just figure out how to do this. So it started there, and just being like, I would really love to take this deepest source of insecurity and fear and turn it into something I can be confident in. Like that would just be the biggest win for me as a human being. And so I started reading all the books I could find, attending every webinar I could ever attend. Like I just threw myself into it. And it was awful. Okay. It was terrible because it felt like everyone was, number one, a man, number two, old, and they were 12 steps ahead of me. Like, I don't actually want to learn how to do real estate and investing. I don't care about my portfolio. I don't even have retirement. Like, I just need someone to tell me how do I function month to month when I don't have stable income? How do I create stability when I feel unstable? So I'm not going to sit down with a financial advisor who's making $1 million a year, helping me budget my $1,000 paycheck. You know what I mean? Like that was just such a disconnect for me. And so once I started learning it and I found a system that worked, and we can talk about that if you want, but I found a system that I loved and I like tweaked it. And I started just talking to my friends of being like, hey, this is in my head. Can I just talk to you about this? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so then it kind of started spreading that way, of me just having these conversations with friends. And it's not because I've got it 100% figured out, but I was one step ahead of them and saying, hey, here's the next step. And they said, oh, great, let's take it. Like I think sometimes, and we can bring this back to artistry or even teaching or, whatever we're doing, we feel like we have to have it 100% in order to help others. And that's just not true. You only have to be one step ahead. That's it. And in fact, that's most helpful to people because they're like, oh, you just did this. Oh, cool. You can actually relate to me. Cool. You're not like some finance bro. Yeah. Who's making $1 million a year. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, you're doing this and you've figured that out for yourself. Cool. Can you tell me how to do it? So I just got really passionate about just being a bestie, someone who's like, hey, I've got your back. Hey, I'm not going to judge you. Like, cause I've literally been there, or like, hey, let's have a conversation instead of just, me telling you like, well, let's look at your portfolio and let's, have you thought about investing in, this real estate? And, I'm just like, I literally cannot. Just tell me how to buy groceries would be helpful to me right now.
Oh. So. Jordan, it's like, that was like if all we take away is that little chunk right there, that is everything. That is everything. You're actually speaking to a lot of my insecurities and saying, hey, it's okay. Like, yeah. I get it. Even as an entrepreneur now for the last almost 10 years, like there's still am right there with you. And I really have to, in those moments where I do have my accounting days, I have to go light a candle. I need to go get my throw. I have to create this environment of safety because it's my least favorite thing to do. So I love that you're just honest about that. And this whole concept of just one bite at a time, one step at a time, that leads down the path of, meeting any goal. We understand that as artists, right? Whether it's about our singing, our musicianship, whatever. I love that because you're a creative, you can apply that to something that has a stereotype of being so rigid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I think that is amazing. What was the game changer for you? So you went down I love that you made yourself available to friends and you were just about the next right thing. But what was your biggest aha moment in this journey for yourself of not being so scared of this? Right?
Yeah. It was definitely what you just said earlier. It was my clicking moment of that. A budget cannot be rigid because I'm not rigid. And my life is not rigid. Like my groceries do not cost the same every month. My electric bill does not cost the same every month. So it is unfair for me to create a system in which there's no flexibility because that's not life. And once I realized that, of like, okay, hold on. I can't do a spreadsheet then because that doesn't allow me to go with the flow. Okay, then what are my other options? I think once I got that, it took away that constant sense of failure. Because I think that's what we run up against is the constant sense of like, okay, great. I failed again this month. Okay, great. I overspent this month. Cool. But you have no tools to fix it. You're just like, well, I guess I'll try again. But what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like it's not helpful. And the structure we've given to people and what we teach most young adults actually does not fit into how their lives work, especially in this generation where people aren't, I don't know the statistic, but it is quite high about how people don't do 9 to 5s, like generationally, we're just running into this thing where people just like, there's so many options out there. We have a lot more entrepreneurs. We have a lot, even the rise of influencers or YouTubers or gamers, like, and all this stuff is cool. Like I'm into all of it. But the systems that worked for an old generation are not working now. And we just need an update. So I think it's unfair for us as artists to hold ourselves to a standard or even try to fit into a box of what we think a budget is. Because I think what's helpful is because you're not just learning a system, you're actually relearning how you think about money and your relationship with money. And that is the deep work that needs to happen, but it takes time, and it's okay if it's emotional. Like, it's not black and white. It's colorful. It's a colorful journey. And I think just recognizing that was really helpful with me, like just pressing on and figuring out what worked for me.
I love that, Jordan. So to walk us through maybe even just like a mini mock-up, and for a listener who is that gigging performer, right? Like they're booking either the musical theater shows, the cruise lines, the weekend gigs,
Yeah.
maybe they have a teaching hustle. Again, like you said, their job bubble has so many different arms and legs. And let's say I come to you and I'm like, help. What's one of the first things that you walk them through?
The first thing I do is I take a look at what you're actually spending. I have found that when I ask you, like, hey, Melissa, how on average, how much do you spend on groceries a month? You might have an idea if you're aware of that, but most people just aren't. They're like, I don't know, or especially bills that get auto drafted. Like, I don't know, it just comes out of my budget. And then if they guess, I have found that they undershoot themselves a lot. It's like that thing of, like when I go through and I actually add up how much dining out you do. And this is the same for me. You're shocked. You're like, I do not eat out that much in a month, and you're like, that's not me, and it's like, no, that is you. And that's okay. That's okay. So my step one would be just getting a dose of realism into what you actually spend, and not holding yourself to some standard of what you want to be or what you want to do, because that's not helpful, but just accepting like, okay, this is who I am. And when I work with gigging artists who are constantly traveling, we'd have a whole thing about like, hey, it's okay that you eat out a lot. Like that's not a problem, because that's a priority. You need sustenance. You're driving all over the place. Like that's not a problem. But what we need to do now is adapt other things so that you can support that which you need. You know what I mean? So just taking kind of the shame away of like, well, what is everybody else doing? Well, I shouldn't be spending $600 on food. Who says that? Only you're saying that. You know what I mean? Like, no, nobody's saying that. Your life is your life, and your money should reflect your life. If I saw your life in money, I should be like, oh, cool. Like these are her priorities, and nobody can decide that but you.
Exactly. And no judgment on that. Like
No
you said, it's just everybody just took a big sigh of relief, like, and feel seen and understood and be like, okay. And again, it's the programming. It is the programming of, like you said, all these other messages, generations before us had a completely different lifestyle, than what's happening now. So I love that so much, so much. What's one of your favorite, wins that you've experienced either for yourself or somebody that you've worked with?
Okay, I'll do both. One for me, is the biggest win was, let's see, I set up our budget and like kind of, I feel like I cracked the code on it. We broke the paycheck to paycheck cycle right around February of 2020. Then March 2020 hit, COVID, everything shut down. And we were able to of course, we felt the anxiety that everyone else felt, but it wasn't related to our finances, even though I lost my job. And that was the biggest win of being like, okay, here's, yes, there's a lot going on. Yes, we're stressed, but how I'm going to make ends meet isn't that, even though I lost income. And I think that was like obviously a luxury that we had, because I still had a partner working, which obviously was not all of us. But for me, that will be forever in my mind of like, if I had not had the systems in place, that would have sunk us, because we would have had no way to manage that unforeseen thing that no one could have foreseen, And I think that's really the beauty of what budgeting is that it's not to catch everything that can happen, because you don't know. You don't know what life is going to throw your way. You're not supposed to know. And that's okay. You just need the system in place to help you navigate it. So it takes all the fear and all the drama out of it, so you can make logical, sane decisions with your money, So yeah. And then I think for one of my clients she worked with me for 3 months, and entrepreneur. She's the one with like so many different legs out there, and just like no month is the same. I would love to create stability. And within 3 months, we actually got her to where she broke the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So she was living 30 days ahead. She had like all her expenses, all her stuff like beautifully mapped out. And in 3 months, so in the grand scheme of her life, it was like that 3 months was nothing. Of course we would do that in order to get there. But in the moment, we're just so hard on ourselves, and we're like, it should take me so fast, and I'm like, but look at the grand scheme of your life. It's not that long, even if it took a year in the grand scheme of your life, is that not worth it to give that gift to yourself? So and she worked incredibly hard. That was awesome. But yeah, that's one of the things I was like, this is exactly why I do this, because now you're not stressed about next month, like it was great.
Yeah. And it liberates you to practice the gift of being present, right? Yeah. Present for yourself, present for your life, present for your art, which is what a lot of times the hustle of the gigging life or the financials of it, all we're thinking about is that next step instead of, then we miss out on what's actually happening in our life. And I've had the pleasure of living a little life with Jordan. She and I got to be in a show together just a couple months ago. And this is another gift set of yours is you inspire people to do the same of just, hey, think about this moment right now, And so thank you so much for encouraging us with that. Tell us a little bit about the system that you do use, because it is in partnership with something that already exists out there.
Praise God.
That in our as well. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I use a system called You Need a Budget, or YNAB, YNAB. And it is truly, I tried Mint, which by the way is closing now. So if you have Mint, you won't have it for long. They're shutting down. I tried Rocket Money. I tried Spreadsheet. I tried pre-built spreadsheets. I just tried it all. And I really found that YNAB was the only thing that helped me have flexibility in my life. What I also love about it is that it integrates with your credit cards, which I found is very helpful, because as I don't carry consumer debt, only because of YNAB, by the way, because it helps me keep track of it. But it allows you to track your credit card expenses. So I use my credit card, and I'm not anti-credit card. Okay. I'm not anti-credit card. I love my credit card, but I only love it really because I have a system to track it like cash, so I don't get behind on things. Anyway, it's the only system I found that has able to integrate credit cards. And you can attach like all your loans. I have my student loans in there. I've got my car loan in there. It literally is a snapshot of your financial life. And it's fully customizable, which is great. So I have like emojis in my budget, which just makes me happy. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's so cute. So I open it, I'm like, oh, cute. Like, there's my little cat on my vet category. It's just so fun. And what is great about it is that it allows you to roll with the punches of life. So, if I overspend on something, it will notify me, and then it prompts me to like, hey, cover that overspending from somewhere else within your budget. So there we go. My headphone just fell out, but it's back in because I'm so animated. My hands are going everywhere. I'm so passionate. But what is so great about the system is that I spend, I'm not kidding, maybe 2 minutes or less in my budget per day. It's just something I do in the morning. Because if I have to open up my computer to do it, forget it. I'm not doing it. If I can do it from as soon as I wake up and just do it my cup of coffee in bed, yes, I can do that. Absolutely. So the learning curve is steep with YNAB. And my husband and I, we ended up creating the vibe. We went on like a little mini retreat, booked a little cabin, and we're like, we're just going to do this. So like, we're going to do YNAB for the weekend. Like, that's our job. And actually that was great. Like, I'm so glad we did it that way. Just got out of the hustle and bustle of normal day, but the learning curve was steep. But once you get over that curve, then it is easy, easy, easy. And we've been on it. Again, since 2020 into 2019, and it has transformed our lives. It really has. It's transformed the way we handle our money and see our money. And on less than 2 minutes a day, I'm like, that is so worth it. It's so worth it.
That's a huge selling point, especially for people like us. Yeah. For sure. Awesome. I'm going to link all that information in the show notes if people want to check it out. Also, how to get in touch with you. But go ahead and tell us, how do we get in touch with you if we want to partner with you in this?
Yeah. So my schedule's a little wonky currently because I just started a new career as a teacher, because why not? And so I'm kind of seasonal. I'm a seasonal worker these days. People can always book consultations with me throughout the year. And then I kind of just keep a track of all those people. And then I'll open up applications for one-on-one work in the spring sometime. And then summertime is like coaching time. That's when we go. But that's how it is for right now. It might change. Who knows? But that's pretty much it.
Again,
so
flexible. So who knows?
That's exactly right.
Exactly. If you want to get on that wait list, you can go ahead and reach out to the Budget Bestie on all those.
Really, it's just my Instagram handle. I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok too. So,
and freaking tastic. We'll put all that information on there. I'm curious, Jordan. Okay, before we leave, what's on your playlist? Who are you listening to? Who's in your earphones right now?
It is Olivia Rodrigo. That Sour album. Or Guts. Which one is it? The newest one, whichever one it is.
The new Guts. Yeah.
I am obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Yeah. I cannot get enough. I cannot get enough of it. I want to sing all the songs. So I probably need a book with you in order to help me sing these songs.
Girl, I think it's cathartic for everybody, no matter, for all women of all ages, so my teens as well as, us grownups. So I love that. I love that so much.
True.
And I love you. Thank you so much for taking the time on your Thanksgiving break to meet with me.
Oh my gosh, of course.
To listeners, I probably will be getting on your consultation list.
Please come on, bring it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can I actually just give an encouragement to your artists real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay. Because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the funny little career path I've been on. And I think, especially for artists, there is a temptation in our world in general to, you're called to do something, so I want to do this. I am called to whatever, work vocationally. But really, you are really called to be someone. And that can look so different. And I think it allows you to be very flexible in where you go, because my career path, looking back, it makes no sense. I truly just went where I was like, great, cool. But because I have this core thing of like, wait, I am this person. So therefore I'm not going to hold so tightly to a career path or what I even think it should look like. We're in such a beautiful time in space where we can truly make money doing anything. Really, we can make money doing anything. And it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. That's okay. That's not a reflection on you as an artist. You know what I mean? Just go do something else, because it doesn't matter what you do. It matters who you are, and who you are is always going to be doing something that lights up the world. So anyway, that's all I had to say.
Oh, and all God's people said, amen.
Amen.